Okay, are we live? Just waiting to see if the feed comes through. And we are live. Cool. So hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another session of me building this chat application using React. Now, in my previous session, what I did was basically take care of the ability to create messages. So if I say hello world here and save, we can see it now updates inside of the interface, right? What I also did at the end of the session was I started handling this delete button. And when I click this, we start to see the conversations over here disappear, right? And what I got to at the end of the session was that when I deleted the very last conversation, the whole application basically crashed. Now, I didn't want to bother working out what was wrong with that before coming into this session, so I kind of fixed this off stream, okay? So what happens now is that we get this. We get basically everything disappears in terms of the interface, except for the fact that we have a message here that just says no conversations and some text and a new conversation button. Now, this button doesn't do anything yet, nor does the one down here. But that's what happens when we delete the conversation right now. A couple of other things that I did off stream was I took care of some styling in terms of disabling buttons and things like that. So if I just put spaces inside of this text box, it doesn't allow me to submit anything, right? I have to actually type something before I can submit. And then it just strips out all the spaces and gives the letter there. Okay, so a little bit of that stuff. I did some theming. So what I also did was I converted all my CSS files to be SAS files and just cleaned them up a bit. So maybe not necessarily this one's a good example. Let's say chat shell. No, not that one either. Let's say chat form will do. So now I've got everything inside of a hierarchy here. So we've got chat form, and then the input sits inside that chat form and so on and so forth, right? So they're the kinds of things that I did off stream. Now, what I've done up to this point in terms of Redux is I have a state that basically keeps track of the conversations, and for each conversation, I have messages associated with that. Okay, so if I come over to my store and look at my reducers here and come down to conversations, I have an initial state up here where I have a conversations array. And inside this conversations array, I have an object that represents an individual conversation. And then I have a property on that conversation, which is called messages, which contains all our messages, okay? Now, the problem with this is that this is actually part of the initial state. Now, if this is a real application, we're not going to want to do that. What we're going to want to do is have an initial state of, in this case, a blank array. So if I save this right now, and come over, you see right now we're going to get no conversations, right? But the idea is that as soon as this comes up, what I want it to do is I want it to start loading in some conversations, and when the conversations have been loaded in, it updates the state, and then basically the state propagates down into this interface here. Cool. So I'm going to put my conversations back for the moment. So we're going to basically move this, right? And we're going to put it inside of a side effect. Now, basically what side effects are is the ability to perform an operation outside of the store architecture that when it comes back with a response, we update the store, right, by dispatching an action. But it's something we can't wait for immediately. It doesn't immediately return a response. Therefore, it's not a pure function, all right? So basically side effects are impure functions, so to speak. And generally, the kinds of things you'll do is make HTTP requests or perform some kind of an asynchronous operation. So for the purpose of this video, what I'm going to do is create a side effect that just basically returns this information here and dispatches an action to the store, which will then go and populate this information straight into the store, right? Rather than having it initialized immediately in the store as it is right now, okay? Now, what I'm going to use to help me build some effects is something called Redux-Saga, right? So apparently there's a number of effects libraries out there that you can use with Redux, but the one I seem to hear about a lot is something called Redux-Saga. So that's what I'm going to use to basically generate some effects to basically, load in these conversations and their associated messages. Cool. So I might have repeated myself a few times there, but it is what it is. Okay. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work out the library I need to basically install to get Redux-Saga going. So from what I can see here, at the moment this is talking about creating an application or grabbing a repo and pulling it down. Now I don't want to do that. I kind of want to skip that. And I just really want to get the npm package for this. So there's maybe somewhere down here. It might tell us what the npm packages are, or I might have to go and check them out in that repo. No, this is talking about testing. Okay, cool. So I think the first step is to actually go to the repo and find out what packages I might need. Let's check out their package.json. And it looks like we're looking for something called Redux-Saga. Yes. Okay, so we're looking for this baby right here. So I'm going to come over to my current app. I'm going to open up another command. And I'm just going to go npm install --save Redux-Saga. And hopefully that will just install. While that's going on, we'll go back to the instructions we have here and look at what we need to do next. So we're going to create our first saga. Following the tradition, we will write our hello world, blah, blah, blah. All right, so it looks to me that the saga functions are going to be generators. Yes. So if you're not sure what a generator is, essentially it's a function that doesn't necessarily return when it gets to the very last line. So most functions in JavaScript, they have what's referred to as a run to completion protocol that they kind of follow. So you start at the very top of a function, you go through every instruction until you get to the bottom of the function, then the function ends and goes back to its caller, and then the execution continues, right? With a generator function, we can return early when you're still halfway through that function. Maybe you need to return a value, and then that value can be iterated over immediately and used in the caller, right? So what it allows you to do is create a situation where you can iterate over a number of results that are generated by this function inside of the calling function. So it's a little hard to explain, but I think the best thing for you to do is go and check out this article here, Understand Generators in ES6 JavaScript with Examples. I went through this earlier and it seemed like a pretty good article to try and understand generators. So there's that. So they're saying, okay, to basically create a saga, we're going to have a generator. That's fine. This one doesn't actually return anything, though. It just logs out a console, but obviously that will probably be for the point of just testing it. And this is the bit I'm looking for. So it looks like in order to run our saga, we need to create a saga middleware with a list of sagas to run. So that must be this bit here. All right. So how do we register the saga to run? There's the hello saga. There's where it's implying the middleware. And that must be the line there. So we must have to go .run hello saga. Cool. And then that's it for now. First we import our saga from the sagas module. Then we create a middleware using factory function, create saga middleware, exported by the Redux-Saga library. Before running our hello saga, we must connect our middleware to the store using apply middleware. Then we can use saga middleware.run to start our saga. Okay, cool. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to actually import a saga. I'm actually just going to create a function. So we'll grab this, just for now, and we'll come over to my index, And just above where the store is, I'm just going to smack that in there for the moment. So I'm not too worried. And then I need my import, so I need my apply middleware import from Redux. So that will be for that. And then this is the Redux-Saga call. Create Saga middleware. Let's throw that directly underneath. And then I've got my Hello Saga already. That's here. And then the next step is to call create Saga middleware and store it in a variable. So that's before I call the store. Nice. And then I have to apply that middleware to the store, which means that instead of using root reducer like that, we have a second parameter there, like so. So we've created our store using apply middleware Saga middleware, and then I just need to run the Saga. Is that everything? Let's go with that for now. So I'm just going to check node, make sure it's still running when I save this. This generator function is not over yield. That's fine. So let's see if we can actually get it to print out something. Hello Sagas. Cool. All right. So it's actually it's detected that my Saga's there. Great. And now it's basically printing out the console. Cool. No major drama there. So far, so good. Now what's next? I'm going to close that. So making asynchronous calls. I don't need to worry about that. So on increments. This is all about invoking actions. I just need to know how to handle the action. Okay, cool. Unlike Redux Thunk. Oh yeah, the other one that I heard of was Redux Thunk. Never actually used it, but you know, it's the other effects library that I was going to look into, but a lot of people recommended looking at Redux-Saga. So that's why I'm here. So what do we got here? Add the following code to the sagas.js module. So we got, so this is the actual code. Looks like it needs its own file. So what I might do is I might create a sagas folder inside of the store maybe. Yeah, let's do that. So we'll go sagas, and then I might create an index.js, and then we'll grab all this code that they're talking about here, and we may tweak it a bit. So what have we got here? We've got, well, first I want semicolons on the end of everything. I really do not like not having semicolons. I'm not sure why they don't have them. Cool. So they're going out. So they've got two generator functions here, yielding a delay of 1,000. Delay is a function where we're returning a promise, setting the timeout to, well, it says res. Oh, it's resolve, is it? So timeout resolve milliseconds. Cool. So this is basically just setting a delay, like it says. And then put, what does put do? Put type increment. It's an action. Okay, so this is basically what I believe is dispatching action. So this one is of type increment after a 1 second delay. And then underneath that, we've got something called watch increment async, which it takes every whatever that is and calls this function. So this must be watching out for an action that gets disposed or dispatched that's called increment async. Cool. So I'm not going to use this code though. I'm going to use I'm going to create one of my own. So what I might do is I'm going to create another JS file here and just call it conversations.js. And I'm going to pretty much copy the code that's in here. We'll just cut that out for now and paste it here because I want the put and I want the take every. And I want, for now, we'll keep the delay. And I'm going to grab, just underneath delay, I'm going to put const conversations equals an array. And this is where I'm going to store my data for now, but this, just pretend that this would come from a server somewhere in the future. So I'm going to grab my conversations that it's currently in the state, and I'm going to cut them out. So it's a lot of objects here. Cool, cut. So now the store is got empty conversations, which is kind of what I want. I don't want to have a situation where we have conversations up front. We want to load them in. Cool. All right, so next step is to come into my conversations.js saga and dump them in there. So this is what I'm going to use to load in is this info right here. So I'll just close that for now. And then what I might do next is create the ability to delay. So we've already got that. And I might call this conversations saga. And I don't like the export function. I'm going to go export const like so and have it equal to a generator function. I just like arrow functions better. And I'm going to remove all this stuff. And that's right, I can't use arrow functions with. So that's the other thing about generator functions too, that you can't use arrow functions. You have to use the function keyword like that with the star. So we've got that, and then what I want to do is I'm going to, after a 1 second delay, yield a new action. So we'll go put, remove all that, and we'll go type equals, well, I'm going to trigger this when we're requesting the conversations. And once we request the conversations, it will invoke an action that indicates that the conversations have loaded, like so. And I think just for now, I'm just going to pass in a payload where we have our conversations. That'll be passed as a conversation property. And then to basically deal with the rest of the state here, I need this selected conversation. And just for the moment, what I'll set that to is conversations. And I'll just grab the first one. And I might spread that in. Just like that. Am I happy with this? Do I need to spread it though? You know what? I don't think I need to spread it here. Let's remove that. Because I'm not updating the state here. I'm just sending it through. Cool. So I think what this does is it creates a saga now that will basically wait a second. Then it will invoke an action called conversations loaded, grabbing a payload with the conversations that have been loaded in, as well as the selected conversation, which happens to be the first one here. Cool. Now, I have to trigger this though when another action takes place. So I'm going to call this one conversations requested. Let's go with that. And obviously I need to rename this because I've still got it saying increment async. I'm also going to remove that comment because it doesn't make any sense. And watch get conversations async. Cool. So save that. And what else do I have to do? Let's have a look at what we have over here. So we create delay, the function that returns a promise. Yeah, I saw that. The result resolves after a certain number of milliseconds. We'll use this function to block the generator. Whatever. Sagas are implemented as generator functions that yield objects to the Redux-Saga middleware. The yielded objects are a kind of instruction to be interpreted by the middleware. When a promise is yielded to the middleware will suspend the saga until the promise completes. In the above example, the increment async saga is suspended until the promise returned by the delay resolves, which will happen after 1 second. Once the promise is resolved, the middleware will resume the saga, executing code until the next yield, blah blah blah. Put is one example of what we call an effect. So that's what I was talking about with side effects. Effects are plain JavaScript objects which contain instructions to be fulfilled by the middleware. When the middleware retrieves an effect yielded by a saga, the saga is paused until the effect is fulfilled. Okay. So to summarize, the increment async, saga sleeps for 1 second and then calls delay via the call to the delay 1 second, then dispatches the increment action, which is kind of what I see here. So we're delaying for 1 second and then we're invoking a conversation's loaded action. Cool. Next, we create another saga, watch increment async. We use take every as a helper function provided by Redux-Saga to listen for dispatched increment async actions and run increment async each time. Now we have 2 sagas and we need to start them both at once. So to do that, we'll add a root saga that is responsible for starting other sagas in the same file. So sagas.js. Okay. So what's going on here? So there's a hello saga. Watch increment. Notice how we only export root saga single entry point to start all sagas at once. Okay, so this is kind of like a yielding the sagas that you want to expose, which is watch increment async, because that's doing a watch for, and then it's calling its own saga. But we're probably never going to call increment saga on its own. It's always going to go through watch increment async. Cool. All right, so I need to export this. And what I might do is instead of having it in conversations, I'll have it here. And I don't have a hello saga anymore that's going. And yield it. They do not like semicolons, these people. So I now need to import. I need to import that. So import this from conversations. Correct? Watch get conversations. And then I just whack that in. Oh, geez. Cool. Alright, so that's that. And then do I just need to run it. Okay, so I need to go to my index here, and now instead of using the hello saga, which I'll now delete, I'm going to grab my import of, what is it? Root saga from store sagas. And instead of the hello saga, I say root saga. And an error. What do we get? All is not defined. Probably because I didn't import it, did I? So what do I have to import there for that to work? all. Okay, so we'll just grab this line for the moment. And we don't need put, we'll take every, we'll just grab all, add the semicolon to the end and save. All right. So at least now we've got it compiling. I want bloody full, oh no, I can't stop. Semicolon, sorry there. So, funny, I can have a look. So we're still not loading anything, but we're not getting an error. Cool. So now I'm in I've got to handle two situations. One, I've got to, no, that's not the right file. I've got to somehow dispatch this action so that at least we'll get to here before it invokes this action. So I'm going to add a console.log here. Go to console.log. See, no, conversations requested. I'll just do that for the moment. And why this is, oh God, why it's coming up with bad tabbing, I do not know. There we go. All right, so I need to basically get this firing, which means I probably have to fire that. So when am I going to want to fire the conversations requested? Well, I think the first time we're going to want to do it is when the component, the overall shell component, is loaded or loading or being created essentially. So to do that, I can come over to containers, chat shell.js, and I believe I'm going to use a hook here. We'll go use effect. Use effect. Use effect is for side effects, if I remember right. And then I think what I do after this is I add in what? Just trying to remember. What do I do? What do I do? I can't remember what I'm supposed to do. I think it just takes a function, remember? Like that. And oh, that's right. And then you have to pass in an empty array. And this is kind of like a component did mount call. So this will not, on update, it won't fire. I think that's what happens here. So I'm going to have a function here probably called load conversations. And for the moment, I'm just going to have no parameters. And this function is probably going to come in as a property. So we'll go load conversations. Like that. And if I remember, you have to actually pass in the dependency, oops, into this array. Now this is probably not going to, it's not going to fail, but if I was to run it, it's probably not going to work. There it goes. And that's because I haven't specified what load conversations is yet. So how do I do that? Or where am I going to do that? I think really it's just a dispatch, right? I want to be able to dispatch something. So down in my dispatches, I'm going to have a new one called load conversations. To which here I'll go dispatch, and I'll have a new action called, what do I want to call it? Conversations requested. And that's it for now. Now this will now fail because we don't have that action, but it was going to fail over here as well. So now I've got to come up and I can add that to my store actions here. Oh, damn it. Conversations requested, yeah, that. So this will definitely fail because that doesn't exist. And now if I come to, well, at the moment I've got all my actions in the one file. And for now, we'll just keep it like that. So export const conversations requested equals, well, there's no parameters, and I'm going to issue a type of, well, I'm assuming it's the Saga, right? So this conversation's requested. I'm going to fire that. Pretty sure that's going to do it. That should fire off my Saga. Let's see if we get, yep, there it is, conversations requested. So that was a log that I added to my conversation Saga here. So now at least we know we're getting here. Now let's have a look at what the reducer is going to do, because I'm assuming put passes in a new action with this payload in it. So now we're going to keep an eye out in my conversations reducer for a, let's start this one at the top actually. So case conversations loaded. For now I'm just going to return state, and we won't do anything just yet. I shouldn't have that there. But I just want to see if I log out the action that we're getting that payload that I asked for that action. Let's take a look. And it looks like we are. So we've got our type, we've got our payload, there's a conversation with 9 items in it. Fantastic. That's definitely our data. Cool. And this is for, well, this is every conversation, so it should be pretty straightforward what to do. And I've even got my selected conversation here. So all I need to do is update my state, right? So we're going to have, const new state or something. Yeah, let's go const new state equals state. And then we'll go new state dot selected conversation is equal to, I'm just trying to think. We're just going to go action dot payload dot selected conversation, right? And that's only one part of it. And then we need the new state dot conversations, and we're going to set that to if we have anything in the payload for conversations, then we'll basically get that to action payload dot conversations. Otherwise, we'll set an empty array. And then instead of returning state, I'm going to return new state. And hopefully, if I've done this all correctly, I've just implemented my first Saga. Let's take a look. And there you go. Look at that. That is awesome. Let's just refresh. So there was a delay of 1 second where it says no conversations, and then bam. So obviously we could improve the UI experience a bit by not having it say no conversation. It probably needs a loader or something. But I think I might leave that for next time. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to get to, guys. I really just wanted to be able to create a Saga, be able to fetch the conversation data as a side effect. Then once I've detected that conversations requested action from my component, my shell component, I wanted that to trigger the dispatch that would then come to my conversation Saga. It would delay 1 second and then send through at the moment just some data that's in memory here, and then call the conversations loaded action or dispatch that action, passing in those conversations as well as the very first conversation in that list. So then that action was caught by my conversations reducer using the conversations loaded action type here, to which I updated a new state with the old state, changed the conversations to be what was in the payload if there was one, otherwise empty array, and then finally I set the selected conversation to what it was in the payload. And then I returned that. And that is all I needed to do to get this to work. Fantastic. And as I click through things, they all still work as they did before. And that's because it's all still in the state. Right? It's just when we initially get here, it's not in state yet. To which it is loading after that 1 second, and then eventually getting into our store. All right. Hopefully this all still works. So I go hello, press enter, there's the thing. If I click here and delete, yep, see that all still works. So everything is working as expected. Fantastic. So that's where I'm going to end this session. So the point of it was to get Redux-Saga in. We've done that. So probably going forward, we're going to start adding some extra features and just tweaking a few things. All right, guys, that's the end of the stream, and I'll see you all in the next one.